My name is Vinny Fiacco. I'm the general manager of Apex Movement Denver. Born and raised in New York, played every sport imaginable growing up. Eventually in college, ended up playing ultimate frisbee and making that kind of my go-to sport. I played that for 9 years, geez, way longer than I thought. 9 years, played all over the country, played in different countries, went over to Canada a bunch, Hawaii, Mexico a couple times to go play. I became a Traceur because I had seen videos on YouTube. Of course, that's where most people started. I thought this would be good cross-training, so I gave it a try. I was terrible, like most people are when they start. I moved to Colorado, found Apex Movement, got some formal classes, and from there I've been training ever since. Apex got started via Ryan Ford. He had heard about parkour, started training it on his own, eventually became one of the founding guys in the country. He started Apex out of a small space, just taking some people he wanted to train with and teaching classes to people who wanted to start training. History of parkour. George Herbert was a sailor, saw some people moving in indigenous areas. The way they were moving, he thought was fascinating. He studied it. He wanted to recreate that, so he brought it back to France. Raymond Bell was a firefighter in France who took that and applied it to a firefighter urban setting. And then his son, David Bell, took that and applied it to him hanging out with his friends and climbing buildings and testing their abilities in an urban environment. So David Bell is commonly known as the founder, or the Yamakasi. He was part of the Yamakasi, which was the group he trained with. They are commonly known as the founders of parkour in France. From there, a couple of documentaries came out about it. People picked it up. And then a movie, District B13, came out. And from those two documentaries and that movie, it blew up worldwide. But some of the big guys, they're making some money off of this. Most people training aren't making money off of parkour. And they probably never will, but it doesn't stop people from training, from getting better, from testing themselves, challenging themselves, testing their fear and trying to get rid of fear they have of small things, of big things, you know. It is nice to know that people train for the sake of training and not for the sake of getting famous, of making it big.
Parkour was just something I kind of found that was a good way to get back in shape and try to not be so lazy and do some exercise and training. I feel much better. I mean, it was actually, I was really kind of surprised how quickly some of the strength came back to me once I really started exercising. And I mean, it was a little depressing at first, to be honest, because I just couldn't do what I used to be able to do with my body, and it became pretty apparent when I started trying to, but it was a great way to get in shape and a great way to start building up strength again. And I mean, I could tell within the first 2 or 3 weeks that I was getting back into form and being able to do things that I couldn't do for a long time.
I like that it's on your prerogative and what you want to train. Unlike competitive sports, you don't have to practice a particular skill for long periods of time just to execute in some short competition. The practice is your play here, and you continue to train, and you're already doing what you want to do, and your end goal is this right here.
I've been training parkour for almost a year, and then I started training aerials in October. I suffered an injury about a month ago. I was warming up for an aerial class, and I rolled my ankle on the air trick over there, that giant black mattress, but I went to go set for a front flip because I was goofing around, and I just landed wrong, rolled my ankle, and it swelled up to about the size of a baseball, and it put me out for about 2 weeks. I recovered pretty quickly, but still pretty tough not being able to do anything. I am actually diagnosed bipolar 1, and being able to train actually really helps mitigate a lot of my symptoms. Even though it was something really minute like an injury, it's still you're kind of faced with this mortality. Everybody's fallible and fragile, and you can kind of be put out from something before you're ready to let it go.
A community is really just a group of people who train together. The small city can have a community as long as they're someone who trains together and make it known that they're going to train together. Apex is easy. We have a gym. You can kind of base your communities around going to the gym, and then as a gym meet people and then go outside and train. People travel to Europe, to France to go to the original birthplace of parkour. The communities are usually major cities, but any small city can have a community as long as you are willing to find some people to train together with. The gym is just a gathering of people who are going to train in an area. It's hard to relate to other sports. You don't really get that. You know, with other sports you need a specific court or a specific field to go to. You can have a jam anywhere. You can have a jam in a field, you can have a jam in a densely populated area. It's just a group of traceurs gathering to train at a spot. Sometimes they're bigger than others, sometimes they're monthly jams. Apex has monthly jams. We also have a national jam where people from around the country come.
The gym became a way to make safer, scalable progressions. We could introduce things like gymnastics mats and foam pits as a way to help people learn in a protected indoor environment. People that train in the gym have an advantage to potentially learn faster than people that train outside, but having the gym athletes take their practice outside will help them with their mental game. Every once in a while, there can be a small amount of tension between the gym practitioners and the outdoor practitioners, because the outdoor training is kind of the old school of parkour method, which is why we always encourage our students in the gym to go train outside.
Drama in the community has always been there. When I first started, I remember it was just the end of the is parkour free running, is free running parkour. People were calling parkour efficient movement and free running flips, and if you were doing flips, you weren't doing parkour, and if you weren't doing flips, you weren't doing free running. I had just joined when that hell started, and I thought it was silly to begin with, and luckily it kind of died out. No one really cares anymore. It's all parkour and free running. The name means the same thing. The new one is training inside versus training outside. I wouldn't say there's any animosity. It's one of those, you kind of have a preference. There's always going to be people who think one side is definitely better than the other. For the most part, nobody cares. The gym is a great training ground. The outside is a great training ground. We train inside to train outside. I think the goal is to be ready for anything, and you can't be ready for anything if you're only inside. So outside is the eventual goal, but that doesn't mean that gyms are bad or gyms are wrong. It's just a place to learn. It's a safe place to learn. It's a place where more people are going to be exposed to the sport. So if you condemn gyms, that's great, you get to train outside, but now people can't learn. You can't spread the knowledge as well. People are more afraid to train outside right away. So gyms are a great tool to get to learning, just like trampolines are a great tool to learn flips. You don't condemn trampolines right off the bat. You learn them and then you take it to hard ground. They're a tool. You don't have to use them. If you don't want to use them, don't use them. If you don't want to teach on them, don't teach on them. But it doesn't mean that they're the devil. It just means that they're something that you don't like and you want to encourage training on hard ground only. That's your training style, that's your teaching style, that's fine. But it doesn't make it more right, it just makes it your style. Piece of advice for new tracers, take it slow. Learn your progressions. Everyone wants to do the biggest thing they've seen on YouTube. Everyone wants to be a Kai Willis or someone big and do the craziest side flip over some gap that you're not ready for. Do the progression. Learn how to start on the ground, learn how to start on pads. Take it outside, even if you don't have a gym. Start on grass, work it up to cement. Get it down pat before you start throwing big stuff, because people getting hurt, people doing crazy things when they're not ready, that's the things that make parkour in the long run look bad, especially in the media. Not everyone wants to see the 4 years of training it takes to get a challenge, but it's way more satisfying to know you have a challenge after 4 years of training than it is to huck it on the first try and 50-50 it, and whatever happens, happens, because you're gonna get injured. It's going to look bad on the community you're in, it's going to look bad on parkour as a whole. So take it from the beginning, get mobile, get strong, then work on your skill training and get your skills down before you start jumping off rooftops. We don't need that. It's not really what we look to do.